Hello and welcome to episode 284 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDadFF. It is week 17. You know, the title of the show is In Like a Lion, Out Like a Lamb. A little bit of a reference to CeeDee Lamb, obviously being out. Snoog and I, our teams are going in like a lion and we're coming out like a lion. We're coming out roaring. We're trying to take down as many championships as possible. A lot of you guys really struggled last week, and you went through a lot of that grind of Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. We're going to bring you a show today, try to talk to you about some dynasty trades that you guys can make, some opportunities you guys have for the championships. Nobody better to talk that up with than my main man Snoog. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, Dad. I mean, it feels good. Secured like a 6x buy-in, even if I lose in every league. Potential to like 8x, 10x if I win every league this year. So we're looking good. 12 teams in, 18 teams was contending, 2 were rebuild. So feeling really good about it. Let's hope we can win some money. But I mean, it's crazy right now. Jalen Hurts, CeeDee Lamb, lost those guys in like 4 leagues. So we're sticking to the scraps here. But hopefully Geno Smith, who I had to start in this gross game, can turn it around for me. But a lot of guys, this is why depth's key, and this is why we told you on the Smash Set pod all the way leading up to the playoffs. Like, make sure you got 3 QBs, make sure you got a couple of wideouts that you're confident in, your Jacoby Myers, your Keenan Allens, and this is why. So we'll jump into some of the details here. Yeah,
and this time of year at Snoog, I'm absolutely loving it because all these guys in the Discord, from our Patreon Discord, are just messaging us. Trippy Tony says, "Thank you, sir, for all the help this year. Got into the championship thanks to all that. Comes down to the wire. Here's who I'm going to start." KP Boudreau said, "Thanks for all the help this year, Dad." He's like, "I'm playing for the championship this weekend. Need some help." And these guys are coming at, they're going into situations where coming into the year, they weren't quite sure. A lot of the help that you and I have given have putting guys into the championship. We're still, it's that final week. $5 a month gets you in there. Snoog, I had one guy today. He sent me 7 rosters. He goes, "I'm in 7 ships thanks to you. Here they are." Start sits on all these guys. And I made a couple adjustments here and there. And I love that they have so much faith in the calls that we're making to just literally just be like, "Here you go. This is what we're going to do." This is that kind of area where we're going to go ahead and trust you and know that you're going to get us into that championship. So we talk about it all the time. Our process is to get you into the playoffs. Snoog and I have a tried and true process. Both of us are at, outside of our rebuilds. I've missed the playoffs 1 time in 3 years. Snoog's in that similar type area. So we really teach a lot of process. We teach a lot of principles. Once you get into the playoffs, Snoog, and this is what I keep trying to tell people, luck really comes into it, right?
Yep.
I had 2 13-1 absolute bangers with Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. And guess what? Both of them out. Both of them get that first round bye. Second round, I get bounced because both of them fell apart. And no matter what you do, you can set the sexiest lineups. You can set things perfectly. And then all of a sudden, the 2 best quarterbacks in the league or 2 out of the 3 best quarterbacks give you a dud. And that's all it takes, and that's why we try to build it up and we get ourselves to have depth, because right now I'm making trades where, I'll give a little bit extra depth to get Zach Charbonnet. I'll give a little bit extra depth to get Derrick Henry this time of year. And now is that area where you and I don't play with trade deadlines, but this is where you cash in. This is where you start to add those little pieces and move forward.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's one of those things where not necessarily the best team wins, right? Like, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
It comes down to kind of who is positioned, right? Like, who has the team that gets hot the last week.
Mm-hmm.
You can get there. I mean, I had teams with a bye week in round 1. I had this one team that dropped 270 on the bye week, and then the next week dropped 235. And now I'm in it this week, and it's like, I could drop 140. Like, my team could easily cool down. I mean, I lost Jalen Hurts in this league. Like, anything could happen. So, like, it's out of your control. It's just getting there. Like, getting in the first or second place. You secure yourself money. You guarantee to make your money back plus. Most leagues, first and second, get a decent amount of money. Mm-hmm. Usually, you can have the ability to negotiate the pot. I've done that in my $200 league. We agreed on I think it's $1,400 and $1,000 right now for first and second place, which is really fun. So
yeah, and sometimes
it's fun, man.
Especially when it's 2 friends. I've been like, okay, it's a $2,000 pot, and I know the bylaws say it's supposed to be $1,600 and $400. How about we just do $1,200 and $800 just to say, you know what? it's bragging rights, and we'll both get some money. We got, it's at Christmas time. We're gonna pay for bills. We're gonna pay for all the presents that we dropped in there. You know what I mean? So it's like it kind of gives you a little bit of extra flavor in there. And sometimes this time of year, Snoog, is we make some trades that we're excited about. That we make some of these trades where it's like, oh man, I cashed the chips in. I pushed the chips in. I went for it. Other ones, it's like, ooh, like you and I did a trade where it was Joe Mixon straight up for the 26 first. If you go ahead and win this week, it's going to pay off great. If you don't, dings a little bit. Another one, in that similar type mold is one of the guys in Smash Accept 14 traded me Blake Corum and a first for Derrick Henry. And I got to talk to this a little bit, as your settings are so important when it comes to those firsts, because in the Smash Accept leagues, only the champion gets the 112. So if you were the 6th seed and you lost, that's the 107. And this guy was the 6th seed. So I get Corum in the 112. But if he loses, it's Corum in the 107. It's win-win. You want to make those trades that have that base floor. So many guys now, I don't understand it. But I mean, I'm looking at it. And as soon as the week was over last week and I lost, it's like, here's Mike Evans. Here's Davante Adams. Here's Derrick Henry. Here's Joe Mixon. All those guys we were buying for a little bit over a second. I said, give me a first. And everybody's like, I had 2 where they took it and they got Derrick Henry and they're going to win championships. And then I had the other ones, people are like, I don't want to pay a first for Mike Evans. I'll give you a second. No, like that's where I'm at right now is Mike Evans, Davante Adams, Keenan Allen. They're not going anywhere. Let's be honest. They are not on the career arc of DeAndre Hopkins. These are guys that next year they're still going to be wide receiver 2s. Like I'm playing that game of just saying, let's get rid of those guys. I'm holding them unless I get a first.
Keenan Allen still looks great. I mean, he looks great still. Yeah, he's been that guy for Caleb. So if he gets another year out of him, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, Odunze is really good too, but it's one of those situations where it's like, look at Adam Thielen. The dude's 35. He's wide open every single play I watch him play. Like that dude is never stopping. He's always open. He's still good. Like sometimes people are just good. Like even if they're older, they take care of their bodies. People age differently. Like yes, there is like that expected curve once they hit 29 to 31 years old. Typically the running backs and wideouts fall off. Yes, that's a thing. But like, look at Alvin Kamara, look at James Conner. Like both of them hit career high rushing yards and like career high, both hit like crazy numbers this year. And same with Derrick Henry and like all these guys. So I don't look too much into it. I see value. I see a buying opportunity when people start fading those guys. And that's why we have multiple teams in the championship this year, right? Like we put ourselves in positions every year to at least make championships. Winning it, there's a lot that comes down to that. It's a lot of luck. It's a lot of this, but getting there and like getting to the playoffs and having the highest points for team and being the number 1 seed, like that takes building a team, building rosters, buying into value, getting those value vets when people are looking to sell off. Like don't get stuck in a rebuild. Go win some money.
Yeah, and even this year, I'm buying the Davante Adams, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen type for my 3rd place teams. In years past, I would have been like, let's just roll it. Most leagues, you get your money back in 3rd place, but I think you're going to be able to still buy those guys at a discount because people are starting to jump ahead and look into the rookie class too much already, and I think what we need to look at here, and Grant says CeeDee Lamb out for the year after he cooked my parlay last weekend. RIP Bucks minus 2.5. So, I mean, CeeDee Lamb is out for the year, and that's really what I want to talk about here first is, CeeDee Lamb to me is still the wide receiver 3. I think Jamar Chase is 1. Jefferson is 2. I still have Lamb as 3. I got a lot of flack on Twitter about that. Like people were really down on Lamb this year. Dak was out. It's just been a little bit of a lost year. But I still think you have an area right here if you have CeeDee Lamb, Snoop, where my first option is, and I started shopping. I have him in 3 of my championship teams. I said, you know what? I'll give you a second plus Lamb for Jefferson or Chase. Both of those guys said no. And I kind of anticipated that. They wanted a mid first. So then I went to the guys that have Bijan and Gibbs because you don't trade CeeDee Lamb for Cortland Sutton in a first. You know what I mean? You don't trade him for something that's a depreciating asset or a middling asset. You want something that's going to be elite. So some of the options that I started to go was like Bijan straight up. I'll do that. You know what I mean? If I'm going to get a guy that's going to have similar value and is going to win me a championship, the other alternative is what we just spoke on. I'm trading my 26 first for Davante Adams or Mike Evans. Both of those guys I have as top 10 plays this week. They have absolute smash matchups. And that's kind of where we're at. You know, you start to get yourself into a spot where you want to make sure you're not giving up CeeDee Lamb for peanuts. How
Yep.
all of your rosters, I mean, what kind of moves have you been able to make? Have you seen any CeeDee Lamb type trades? Because you don't want to go in. I mean, right now, would you trade CeeDee Lamb straight up for Puka? I was talking to Zoltan. He has moved Puka over CeeDee Lamb. I still have
Wow.
CeeDee Lamb considerably higher. And I think, but that's kind of the line, right? If that's a 1-for-1 trade and I know it's going to win me a championship, I think I'm okay with Puka Nacua because you're in the same line. I asked for Brian Thomas Jr. in a second. I think I'd do AJ Brown or Amon-Ra in a second. And those are those moves where I think once you do that, you're still safe, right? You're still getting those points. You're still getting set up. What kind of moves are you trying to make when you're talking CeeDee Lamb? Because that's what everybody's asking right now. They want to know how to actually make a move to stay relevant.
I'm not selling him short. I'm keeping him, and I'm going and buying Keenan Allen. I'm going and buying one of these guys, like you said, because Dynasty is one of those things you play in windows, but you never want to sell elite assets for a lot less than what they're worth in these windows, because that's how you slowly wreck a team's value.
Yeah, because as soon as you trade CeeDee Lamb and you lose, and you sell him for Terry McLaurin in a late first, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot.
It's like the trade we did. I granted, like Najee was horrible and Rico Dowdle is not gonna have Jalen or not gonna have CeeDee Lamb, and they're gonna be terrible against Philly's defense. But I gave you my first for Mixon. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna put all the cherries in and go for it with this last week. I mean, I have a really good team in that league, and he got me like 7 points. So it's a risk you take. I also hate the 26 class, so I'll ship those first out like it's giving out candy on Halloween. But yeah, it can be definitely one of those things that it can bite you in the ass if you don't do it right. So be safe with trading. Don't trade your 27 first. I can't stress that enough to people.
I haven't seen
that class is going to be a ton of value when it comes.
In all 20 of my leagues, I've only seen the 27 first traded once. You know, and I think that's a lot of times contenders look at that 27 first and they're like, it's 2 years away, not a big deal. But a lot can happen to your roster in that time. And we look at the 27 class. The 24 class, honestly, might go down as one of the best we've ever seen. You know, and I think we have elite level wide receivers. We haven't seen the best of some of the quarterbacks, but we have 2 of them now firmly in the top 12, maybe even 3 of them in the top 12. You know, as far as wide receivers go, we have 3 of them in the top 15. No running backs, but Bucky's still in that top 12 running back situation. I mean, this was the year, and we're starting to see Worthy come around a little bit. We're starting to see some of these other guys. I mean, this was a class to build around. We talked about that. You and I showed the podcast of the 25s, you know, and we ended up showing what we were going. My man Los from the Discord, he says, I got 4 extra 27 first, thanks to your advice. You're going to reap the rewards there, Carlos. Carlos is another guy in the Patreon, you know, talking daily. Snoog, that's one of the coolest aspects of this is guys where, you know, there's a chat with Snoog section, a chat with dad section. I put stuff about, yo, guys, I'm going to spend some time with my kids here. I was grinding on Christmas. I answered a couple hundred questions in the morning. I said 12 o'clock, I got to spend time with my kids. And half the room was like, hey, Merry Christmas, Dad. Go have some fun. You know, and it's like, you're starting to learn some of these guys. We're learning the names. We're starting to make friends. A lot of the guys are saying, Dad, hey, next week, the dynasty season starts. Like I said, no. I said the dynasty season.
Wait. I can't wait till Monday night football is just done. Like that Lions game ends, and it's like, you know, if you won your ship.
Yeah.
And then it's like, let's go. Like, it's time to just like start making good trades for your team. I love I love making I love rebuilding teams. And I love making like those type of young trades, like getting your young players you love.
Well,
I just like
more speculative
then. It keeps me from doing it, but that's honestly my most favorite thing. If I could if I could help people, which we do in the Discord, if I could like do that for my own teams, like just like constantly rebuild teams and like that could be my success. I would do that in a heartbeat, but it doesn't work like that.
Hey, sometimes it does. I always try to pick 2 or 3 my worst ones and rebuild them. But what I was trying to get at is guys are coming in there. And by the way, the dynasty season never ended and it never ends and it never starts. It's just that it keeps going. And a lot of you guys are really just starting to tune into us for the first time on, you know, for redraft. Try out dynasty, like try a league, even if it's $10 with your buddies, because you're going to get hooked. If you were into Madden franchise mode, if you've ever been into just anything where you have this stacked team and then it disappears, Dynasty's the way to go. You're going to set yourself
Yeah,
up.
you'll never go back. If
you
you
will
need
not.
help, DM us. We'll help you out with settings and what you need to do. But
I'm in 20 dynasties and 1 redraft, and the only redraft I ever do is work. But guys are coming to me and say, Dad, it's time to do roster evaluations. It's time to do roster construction. I'm like, hell yeah. That's what I like to do. That's my bread and butter. That's why all my teams are set up, is because I know how to make these moves. And guys are saying, hey, I have pick 1, 4, 7, 10. What's that look like right now? I know you and Snoog have been hitting on 25 first. And to me, it's exciting because it's like, you know what? I'm said 1's going to be Junty, 4 we're going to go here, 7 and 10 we're going to ship for 26 first plus. And it's like I'm starting to already get in their mind of like, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to start making some trades. We're going to get ourselves into that area where we are going to dominate 2025 or 2026. A lot of podcasters, a lot of people really just preach trades, win the trade. But we're more about, dude, let's get a plan together. And that's something in the offseason Snoog and I are going to really hammer home. He's going to talk to rookies. I'm going to talk about roster construction. We're going to blend the two, and you are going to be in a position where you're going to take those rebuilding teams and you're going to be dominant. You're going to take those teams that are a year away, and you're just going to put yourself right there with all the big dogs, and I'm excited to break those down. I'm excited to move forward with that because every single person, Loaf says, I'm worried about people leaving my dynasty leagues after Monday night.
Definitely make people pay the fee. Unless you know them all well, make them pay the fee.
Yeah, you want to make sure you get that out. The next thing, Snoog, I want to talk about for your championship rosters is CJ Stroud was straight up the Grinch who stole everybody's Christmas.
Oh, that was so depressing. That was so depressing for me.
But that Texans offense, if you had anybody
I don't know
playing,
them, but
you basically they were the Grinch. That absolutely ruined Christmas for a lot of people. And now it's like people are messaging me, hey, should I start Rico Dowdle or Jameson Williams? You're like, now you have to start Jameson Williams, right? Now you have to start Romeo Dobbs. Now you have to start these guys that give you a chance to score multiple touchdowns. You got to start. You got to play. You got to throw that out by the wayside. I have a ton of different dynasty trades here that you guys have been sending in. Before we get into that, Snook, I want to hit a little bit more on Lamb. Is there any other trade scenarios? Would you take Garrett Wilson in a first?
No.
I'm Jackson Smith and Jigba's already played, so that would be one that I would have taken.
We're down to slim pickings, honestly. The best thing you could do is go CD plus for JJF, CD plus for Jamar, plus like a mid-early second. And then go Thomas like Amon-Ra St. Brown.
What about BTJ in a second?
CeeDee Lamb.
Late first.
CeeDee. BTJ.
I would do it for an early too. I did offer that and it was rejected. Because now
remember all the people that were saying like how they hate how everybody's just gasses up all the prospects and that everyone's too high on everybody in this class. And when you and I constantly did shows and said how there's going to be 6+ good wide receivers in this class for sure. And we hit on the top 6 spot on. And now they're all worth top 25 dynasty. Like Xavier Worthy's great. Like, I don't care what anybody says. People were talking all that crap about him. He is a 1000% hit. Like the rookie year he could be having would be better than Lab McConkey right now. If Mahomes wasn't terrible,
he's coming around. Like just like Rashee Rice did his rookie year. I think Patrick Mahomes is starting to play better with that. Now Rashee Rice coming back next year.
Yeah.
I'm going to be buying Rice. I think Worthy's going to be in that conversation for sure. And the dynasty rankings are all going to get shook up. The one thing we're going to do in the Discord is literally, I've been doing it every week during the season. In the off season, once a month, I'm always updating all the rankings, moving players around. Everything is broken down into tiers with values so you guys can see what your rookie picks are worth so you can make those educated trades. You can go ahead and see what, you're going to pull it up. You'd be like, okay, what is Rome Odunze worth right now? You go into that tier, you see who's in that similar area, and then you make trades accordingly. And making educated trades is really what it's all about. We're trying to put you guys in the best position there. So I put it out there. I said, what are some of the ways that you would, what are some of the trades that you guys have been making recently? How can we help you with these? First one we had was guy said he gave up CeeDee Lamb. Trent McBride said he gave up CeeDee Lamb straight up for Gibbs. I'm smash that. I mean, in a startup, I would take Lamb over Gibbs. I think it's pretty darn close, but in a straight up trade, I'm doing it. Like that one's one where I'm all in.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could go like the Gibbs Bijan route if you're really trying. Oh, my camera just like didn't focus. I would go that route, Bijan Gibbs, if you could.
What about this one? Darth Mamba 24 sends in Evan Ingram and Jamar Chase, or Garrett Wilson, Dalton Kincaid, Blake Corum in a mid first.
Jamar Chase.
Yeah, that should be Jamar Chase alone. The gap, and Garrett Wilson's going to finish inside the top 10 wide receivers, but the gap between him and Chase has gotten bigger, actually.
If Garrett leaves the Jets and goes to like New England or the Chargers or one of these teams, then he's going to be a top 5 dynasty wide receiver again. But until then, and when he's a Jet, he won't be. He'll be like 9, 10, 11, like in that range.
Bobby Schott said he got Lamb for Brian Thomas Jr., Pickens in a first. But that's an overpay. I'm smashing BTJ Pickens in a first there. Even if that's the 112, I feel like Pickens is more now, I'm a little bit worried with what I've seen from him as far as the way he plays, as far as, the quarterback play. I am now trying to trade Pickens wherever I can, but I'm trying to tier up. And this would be, if this was BTJ and Pickens for Lamb, I'd be fine with it. Adding the first in there, I feel like gets you a complete loss. Yep. This one, Shreds with a Z. He got Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson for David Montgomery in a second. How good has Josh Jacobs been? I mean, Josh Jacobs is literally lighting it up. He's been inside the top 5 every single week for the last 7 weeks. If you can get Jacobs, especially in PPC, you do it wherever you can. He said this pick is the 204. So the 204 and Monty for Jacobs, if you're talking about doing that trade in August,
smash.
Montgomery wins. If you're talking about doing that trade now, the 204 could be a solid running back. But if you're giving up Montgomery for that, I'm fine. Another trade here. I'm buying. I've told you that I've been buying Chase Brown in the playoffs absolutely everywhere for 26 firsts. I have absolutely no problem as long as it's like 106 or higher. And I think he's going to win you your fantasy championships. Bought another share. I gave up J.K. Dobbins in a late 26 first. I feel like those are the kind of moves where it's like, it's not as risky, right? Because even if I lose the championship, someone's going to give me a 26 first for Chase Brown in the offseason. Then you just cash yourself out. You move a lateral move straight across there.
Yep.
James, is it Ogunrin, wants to know this week, and we'll throw this one in here, but Jerome Ford, Jalen McMillan, Tajay Spears, or Alexander Madison. This one's actually tough. I think I'm playing Ford if it's 0.5. If it's full PPR, I might roll McMillan. And the reason I pulled this question up, how good has McMillan been? Like
He's
3
been
straight
great.
game with the touchdown. I have a lot of people asking me a mid-second or McMillan. And I think that's about where he's at now. But I think Godwin's going to come back. So it's a little bit of a hot sell high window.
He might miss a good amount of time, though, Godwin. I think I like Spears there if Pollard misses. But if Pollard plays, then I like McMillan or Ford. But I like McMillan, I think.
Ford was so good last week. He's been someone that's just filled in. He's the prime example of a guy right now where if you have him on your team, you're trading him in a third for any second. Doesn't matter what year. You just try to move yourself up. You try to go into there. AJ Estevez in the Discord has a trade here. He said he got Saquon Barkley, Mike Evans, and Terry McLaurin for CD, Monty, and Blake Corum. And that to me, man, that's what it's all about right there. Is like would you do Saquon straight up for CD Lamb? I know you're losing value.
Yeah, I'd take CD.
No, I'm saying if you were all in, would you take Saquon?
No. Because Hurts isn't playing. You don't know what to expect.
But
all they got to do is stack the boxes. That's sketchy to me. I mean, Dallas D stinks against the run.
This one here, he gets Evans and Terry. Terry gets a top 10 matchup. Evans has a top 10 matchup. Terry McLaurin is actually the wide receiver 5 in the month of December. So that's a great trade there for AJ Estevez. Bor from the Discord wants to know, with Tank Dell's injury, he's going to miss all of 2025.
Yeah.
What does this do? Yeah, they've made the announcement already. It looks like he's going to miss that whole thing. So what are you doing with Tank Dell? Other guys were in there asking what's his value. I can't say you pay anything more than the 2026 212. Like that's kind of what you're looking at. Is it was an off year for him. He was fantastic as a rookie. You got to remember he was an older rookie coming in. I think he is a buy on a rebuild team. I think it's the type of move where you just in your rookie draft, you move from 112 to a random 26 first and get Tank
Yep.
Dell thrown in.
Yep.
You know, and I think you're going to even be able to do that in the second round is just get Tank Dell thrown in. So if you guys have him, that'll be an interesting one. One guy was saying straight up, this is John Lapistola, sorry, from and we have a trade talk room in there where you guys are literally they're just talking shop 24/7. So Snook kind of makes fun of me because I always say we're talking shop 24/7, but nobody cares about your team like these guys do. Your girlfriend, your wife, your kids, your coworkers, they don't care. Like guys come up to me at work all the time telling me about their fantasy team, and I'm like, that's nice. You know, like, yeah. But then these guys, they're just straight up savages. CeeDee Lamb for Malik Neighbors. Is that?
I'm taking CeeDee easily.
If you're in the championship and you like, let's say it's now you have to start, you know, because we've already had a bunch of games, you're going to have to start Jalen Coker. You're just going to roll him out there in the championship, or you're going to go and get Malik Neighbors. You know what I'm saying?
Malik Neighbors is a game time decision. So you make a move like that and he doesn't play.
Yeah. Next one on here. Give me 1 second here. All right. We have Bryce Young and Bucky Irving or the 101 in Superflex.
Bryce Young and Bucky Irving are the 101 easily.
I think you still have to add a late first onto that.
Yeah,
but
it's not close.
The reason I want to hit on this, Bryce Young, I was getting him for a pair of thirds when he got benched. He's borderline worth a first again. Like his stats over the final part of the season were actually like he's a totally different quarterback. Like he does not look.
Yeah, people say that, and I went and looked, and like he still has had 200 yards passing twice. Like it's like, like they're always playing from behind. It's completely different game script for him.
All right.
Like,
so from week 12, he threw 263 and a touchdown, no interceptions. Yep. Week 13, 298 and a touchdown, no interceptions. Week 14, 191 and a touchdown. Week 15, 219 and a touchdown. And then week 16, 158, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. He has 3 rushing touchdowns in the last 4 games.
I saw that, yeah. That's the one thing I like.
You know, if you look at it, over that stretch, he was QB2 last week. He has multiple top 10 quarterback finishes. I mean, Bryce Young, I think you could get him for a second plus, and I think we're just starting. There's no weapons here. I mean, you know, we say it about Nix, we say it about May, but Bryce Young's just 23 years old, and I think he's going to be ascending. We do those shows where guys are guaranteed the lock to increase in value. Bryce Young is a lock to increase in value over the offseason. He's the guy right now where if you
Canales see, too, QB guru, just absolute monster head coach that just knows what he's doing. The offense is simple. They're gonna get a wide out.
Yeah, exactly.
O-line's good. Like the O-line's playing very good for them. The defense is terrible, so they got to score points.
And guys that are in the championship right now, that you could trade Bryce Young for Matthew Stafford, you know, because they're going to want a guy they think is going to put up more points. I bought Bryce Young. I had 1 share going into the season because in my rookie drafts, I was not buying him. I'm up to 7. Like I was getting him for nothing. I got multiple scenarios where I got him for 2/3.
Ceiling? What's like his absolute ceiling though as a fantasy quarterback? Like he'll never be a 5,000 yard passer.
No,
he'll never be he'll probably never even kiss 4,500 yards in his career. I would be shocked.
It's small
but he's like exactly. He's like a high end QB. Yeah, he could be like a Tua light in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's fine because he'll be your QB3 and you'll flip him for a first at some point this year. Because Bryce Young should be worth a first if we take away what he did in his rookie year. If you just looked at this, he would be worth a first. You know, and I think that's what you have to at least pay a little bit of attention to and kind of go that route. Next trade. All right, here we go. Oh, this is a big one. From TJ into the playoffs. Would you rather have Chuba Hubbard, George Pickens, and Ladd McConkey, or Saquon and T. Higgins?
Saquon and T. Higgins. I got this question asked.
Yeah.
Someone asked me this.
I do too. what's the gap between, a lot of people have said, Dad, you're way too low. You're way too high on Ladd McConkey and you're way too low on T. Higgins. So, I mean, full disclosure, I have T. Higgins below Ladd McConkey. I think, I'm not sure where you have him right now. I have T. Higgins as my wide receiver 17, and I have Ladd McConkey as my wide receiver 14.
Yeah, I think Ladd is like, he's weird for me because I loved him as a prospect, and like I loved him drafting him with Herbert, and now I almost think he's a sell. Like I already think he's valued past his ceiling.
Because right
and
now
you could just get someone else with a higher ceiling. Like I think he's like,
I have him as 104 to 106 value. You know, it's like,
yeah,
that's rare air for someone of his particular makeup, you know, and that's not a white guy joke. Because I mean, I would argue that you could give, you know, you could swap him from Marvin Harrison right now in rankings. They're right. I think Marvin Harrison is going to obviously have a career arc where it's probably less than what we've seen from Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors could be the next Jamar Chase. Marvin Harrison might just be the next Drake London. He might just be a guy that's, you know, right there in that area. And that's okay. That's okay. But I think Ladd McConkey is right now, I mean, I have him over Rashee Rice, T. Higgins, Rome Odunze. After wide receiver 12, it's all the same for like the next 15 guys. You know, so like that's what people ask is, I think T. Higgins has the opportunity in the offseason to increase in value if he goes to New England. You know, and I think that's the spot. As the wide receiver 2 in Cincinnati, it's already a baked in cost that you're getting an elite level player. So Scarface has a great question here. He said, and Scarface is always in the Discord talking, who's the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings in 2025? It's JJ McCarthy.
It should be Sam Darnold, though.
But here's why. It's JJ McCarthy, because you're saving at least $40 million, because that's what you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to pay him a boatload of money. So you're saving $40 million.
It's not worth it.
That's three starters on an offense that's already fantastic. You have Jefferson, you have Addison, you have Hawkinson. Aaron Jones is under contract. You're going to get 3 more players. And you're right, though. Sam Darnold deserves a contract. He played for it. And if you bought him for a random second, you're going to cash in, because he's going to go somewhere and be a starter for sure in 2025.
And JJ McCarthy's not like a stud, right? Like he's not this guy with this crazy arm talent. He's not like some elite rushing quarter. There's nothing he's elite at. And I liked him as a prospect. I thought he was very well-rounded, solid player, like a game manager, like a Brock Purdy light type guy.
He's going to be like
he was never on Drake May's level. He was never on Jaden Daniels' level. He's never on Caleb's level. He's like Sam Darnold probably has a higher ceiling, and that's crazy to say, but like they're game managers plus. They're Geno Smith, they're Sam Darnold, they're Kirk Cousins. That's what they are.
We wanted Drake May to go to the Vikings. Okay, let's just be honest. Because if Drake May right now,
I think he would have been my 101, 100%. Yeah.
Right now, Caleb is my QB 10. Drake May is my QB 11. Bo Nix is my QB 12. So I got 3 guys there in the top 12. And I have JJ McCarthy at 21. But I see a real world scenario where JJ McCarthy gets the job. He's a guy that I think guaranteed increases in value. Right now, I say he's worth the 112 in the same tier as Anthony Richardson, Trevor Lawrence, and Dak Prescott. I think he's going to pass him. Yeah. I think he literally passes all of them when we get to a spot. Dub G says this is not a Trey Lance situation. Minnesota win now. They have a QB performing.
Could be, but
person unknown. I just think I think that's what they're honestly. I think this is what's going to happen is going to be JJ McCarthy. That's why they traded for Daniel Jones, because now Daniel Jones is the backup where you have a solid guy ready to go. And the only way they can move him if they have to for a little bit of extra capital. So that's a great question, Scarface. I love those kind of things because Snoog, I'm looking at that quarterback landscape, and that's one where I'm looking at it right now. And guys like Bryce Young, Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy, even Sam Darnold can be had for much less than what they're worth, what they will be worth in the offseason. And we're starting to see those guys like Stafford and Cousins and those other guys just dip down even more in value. So I think that'll be a fun position to kind of look over in the offseason, try to pick out some wins and losses. And that's the one where I usually hit the hardest. A press M3. We got a trade here. Baker and Jerome Ford or Anthony Richardson?
Baker.
I want
Mayfield?
Baker over. Yes, I want Baker over Anthony
Baker
Richardson.
comfortably over Anthony Richardson for me. I don't think Anthony Richardson's a starter in the NFL.
I think he will be again
I don't
next year,
think
just because
I think he will be,
fantasy-wise,
but I don't think long term.
no,
I don't think he's gonna
no.
be. He's terrible. Like he is
This
so
is
bad.
this is a field scenario here. That was one of the bigger misses for sure. But Baker Mayfield, let's go back to that. Right now, I have him as QB 15, and if I'm playing in the championship right now, he's a top 5 quarterback. I put him in my weekly rankings every single week as a top 8 play, but somehow he's just quarterback 15. I mean, would you rather have him or Brock Purdy?
Purdy.
The same here. Kyler Murray, Bo Nix, Drake May, Caleb Williams. But I think my QB 15, QB 16, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff are the guys that I'm buying everywhere. I gave up CJ Stroud for Goff, a first, and Tyreek Hill 2 weeks ago.
That.
And it got me, I didn't win the championship, but I'm going to get third place and get $50 out of it. Jared Goff is just that perfect buy. I had a bunch of guys message me saying I was too high on him. QB 16, he's a QB 7 on the season. Baker Mayfield's the QB 5 on the season.
That's definitely the way buying high. The only quarterbacks I'll buy high on is Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson from now on. Unless the Bengals defense stays this terrible, then Joe Burrow will be in that list too. But those are the only 4 guys that I'm going to be buying high on. If not, I'm going after like Drake May, even getting that big dip on Stroud right now with how he's been playing and how the team's been playing in the sophomore slump and all this stuff. Like, there's a big buying opportunity there for him to kind of shape himself back into like a top 10-ish quarterback.
Can we talk about Stroud a little bit?
You got to buy these guys like Drake May and stuff.
I mean, in the rookie draft, he was my most owned rookie. Him, and what I was just getting him everywhere. Him and Bijan and Gibbs, and I have 0 shares now.
Yeah, I don't own him either.
And that's why
I don't let bias get in the way.
Thank you.
Just because I like a player, I won't own them if they're overpriced. Like as soon as I saw like when he was like, I think at one point he was the QB1 on Keep Trade Cut, and everyone was going crazy over that. I had 1 share of him. I flipped him plus I think an early second at the time for Jalen Hurts. I don't own him anymore. I'll still root for him. He's still one of my favorite players in the NFL, but I don't care. Like I love Jahmyr Gibbs. He's also very good in fantasy. I love Kamara. He's also very good in fantasy. I love like these guys like Garrett Wilson. Usually good. Should be good in fantasy, but you know what I mean. So don't let personal buy. Just because you like a player doesn't mean you have to own them. Like you can root for a player and not own him in fantasy football. You and I make trades with our head. Other guys make trades with their heart, right? Because you want to get that guy. You're like, I love that player. And then I'm like, nope, not so much. And Jaden Daniels was a guy we were picking up. He went to QB1 overall. Now it's time to trade him. And it's like a lot of people say, well, aren't you going to ride that out? There's some risk involved. And with Stroud, that's one thing where we were trading there. And there were a lot of situations where after the rookie draft and Drake May went to the Patriots, you could have given up CJ Stroud for Drake May and 2 firsts. And then guess what? That closed to Drake May and 1 first. And now you'd be hard pressed to get him straight up. I mean, where do you have Stroud overall in your rankings? Because I feel like I have him as QB 8. And I haven't done it. Like I haven't made that adjustment yet, but he's probably Allen, like Jackson. He's probably like 10 to 12-ish. So 9 through 12 in that area. Stroud or Herbert? Herbert. Williams. Caleb? Yeah. Stroud. So then you can't have too much higher. Drake May. That one's getting close for me, Dad. I'm telling you. So that's where we're. That one's getting close for me. Those are my 2 favorite quarterbacks. That one's getting close for me. I love it. I love it. No, Stroud right now, but like, if you could fast forward into the offseason and Ted McMillan or Travis Hunter or T. Higgins is one of those guys as a Patriot and they get like a good offensive lineman in the draft and they actually make a ton of moves with the most cap and all that draft capital and they build up an offense for him, then I'll take Drake May because he's like he could give you so much fantasy points through the air and through the ground. He's just one of those guys, but he's also so good. It's not like he's just like a Justin Fields rushing QB. Like he's actually good. Like that's the thing with Drake May. So Drake May's QB1 in the rookie class. No, Daniels is for fantasy football, but Drake May is QB2 for me. I had Caleb Williams. I think Caleb will turn it around, though. I think all three of them are going to be studs. I think Bo Nix going to be like a Derek Carr in Oakland, back in those Oakland Raiders days. I think that's Nick's ceiling, is like that Derek Carr, like that 4,000-yard passing, gets you 8 to 9 wins, you round one exit in the wild card type of player.
He's
and
already
then
put
Penix,
up
I don't
QB1
think is
season.
that good.
He's QB 11 on the year, so it's like
that's like that's like his ceiling to me is like QB 8 to 12.
I'm buying him if I can, just because I feel like they're in a similar area with very minimal weapons. I think it's more like Sean Payton was trying to buy a guy that he thought was the next Drew Brees, and I think a lot of it he's propped up by Sean Payton, but I think he's a good buy in the offseason. And what we're really excited, we've got you guys to the championship. We're super excited to really just start breaking down rosters for you. Reach out, sign up for the Discord. It's $5. If you don't like it within your first week, we'll give you your $5 back. We're that confident, and this is something where the rest of the year you are going to benefit from this. There's so many guys in there. I don't want to give out names, but I mean, there's one guy in there. He said he was in 1 championship last year. He's in 9 this year. So he went from 1 to 9. Just think about that. If you pay $5,
a lot of people
where
are
else
saying it.
You're going to make that money? Honestly, you're paying $5 a month, and we're thinking about next year changing some prices and kind of going some things around. Yeah. But like, you are putting yourself into an area to dominate. Other guys are saying, well, what if I don't want to do a recurring thing? Because a lot of guys don't like subscriptions. Snoog and I have been doing roster review for us. We have a set fee for myself or Snoog or both of us at the same time. We'll do it live just like this and have you on and do it like a podcast. We have it where sometimes guys will just be like, Dad, 15, you got 15 minutes. Let's get on the phone. Let's start talking trades. And that's really, nobody else gives you that kind of personalization. That's what we're here for. We're excited that we got guys in the championship. Now we want to set you up next year for that success. Share on YouTube, guys. We are almost at our goal of 2,000. Shout out to Brock Dynasty. Make sure you follow him at Brock Dynasty. He's made some great videos for us. Really taking the YouTube page from 40 followers to almost 2,000 over the course of this year. Next year, Snoog and I are planning on going big with it. So we appreciate all your support. We wish you guys the best of luck. Hit us up in your DMs if we're talking about anything for that start sit. We're going to try to help you out the best we can. But the only way to guarantee that is to get into that Discord. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and enjoy that championship process, baby. Week 17.